You know what keeps Donald Trump's lawyers up at night? You know what has them white knuckling? I know it from my own experience. They have an out of control client that they know they cannot prepare for testimony. He has an inability, a genetic disposition against taking advice from any of his lawyers. And therefore they are worried about the 3 different cases that are moving rapidly to requiring Donald Trump to give testimony under oath, swear in the witness, a deposition, probably the most powerful tool in any litigant's bag during a civil trial in the adversarial system is to require that somebody swear in under oath before a court reporter to tell the truth as if they were in a court of law. In fact, that testimony, that deposition testimony, which is often videotaped, can be used in a court of law. It can be shown to the jury under certain circumstances. It can be used for cross-examination under others. And that's what keeps Donald Trump's lawyers up at night. I've had in my career a couple of clients, you could probably guess which ones, that are almost impossible to prepare. And Donald Trump is his own worst enemy. He is terrible at giving testimony under oath. We have examples of it. I'm going to tie it all together because the 3 cases, the Washington Post, the BBC, and a case of Trump versus the Internal Revenue Service in 3 different courts are all coming rapidly to the point where he's going to have to give deposition testimony. And no, he's not going to be able to say he's too busy because he's the president of the United States, since he's the plaintiff that brought these suits while he's been president of the United States. I've got your interest, hopefully. Let's kick off Monday on Legal AF with this teachable moment about depositions and Donald Trump. Okay, let's go over the 3 cases first. You've got the BBC case, Donald Trump suing the BBC for $50 billion. Yeah, you heard that right. In Miami federal court, right? You got Judge Altman presiding. That case is moving towards depositions. The BBC has been very aggressive. If Donald Trump thought because they apologized for the editing job about his ellipse speech, that was going to make them compliant or bend the knee or write a check, forget it. They are trying the Jan 6th insurrection case in Judge Altman's courtroom. They've issued 156 requests from documents against Donald Trump and those around him. They have 60 or so third-party subpoenas. Those are demands, court-ordered demands that are provided to third parties to turn over documents and sometimes testimony, including the Jan 6 committee, including Jack Smith's investigation of Donald Trump, including all the Trump businesses, since he's seeking $50 billion, including punitive damages and defamation damages. He's got to prove up his economics. And once we get those documents, then I assume BBC is going to demand that Donald Trump sit in a chair in a room with a court reporter and a whole battalion of lawyers asking him pointed questions. And if you think that's going to go well, I'm going to show you a clip of what happened in the E. Jean Carroll sex abuse case that led to Donald Trump's demise in that case. Now, from a strategic standpoint, the deposition is powerful. And generally, lawyers like me, or careful lawyers, will do all the fact gathering and the document gathering and the subpoenas and the document exchange and kind of get everything lined up and put an associate on organizing the files and getting them ready in big binders of electronic documents, and you get ready. Or I've also been known to call for an immediate deposition, because they don't need the documents, the BBC. All the documents that they need have already been produced and are in the public record by the Jan 6 Special Committee in Congress, by Jack Smith's Volume 1 report about DC election interference. You Midas Touch and Legal AF reporting. You don't need documents. This is not a case where, like, between 2 private litigants where there's like an informational asymmetry and I don't know what the other side has. This is in the public domain. Set the deposition, BBC. I know you want to dot the I's and cross the T's, but if you slam him in the deposition, you will get that case dismissed faster than you can say, insurrection. That's what they should do, and I've been known to do it in my cases in an aggressive posture, and it works. 2 other cases where over the course of the early fall, there's going to be a moment where Donald Trump is going to flinch and dismiss his case rather than sit for a deposition. He's got a case against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch, Dow Jones, who owns them, because he doesn't like the fact that they, along with everyone else in the world, published the birthday book, the 4-volume Epstein leather-bound birthday book. Leave it to a sexual predator and a pedophile to have a 4-volume leather birthday book. And he doesn't like the fact that the Wall Street Journal, along with everyone in Congress, we even published it because on page 250 of volume 3, they're pasted in a book from 30 years ago as a submission on behalf of Donald Trump. That's lewd and pornographic. And it's news. He didn't like that. So he sued. And then he wanted to do a fast deposition of Rupert Murdoch. He claimed, this is a year ago, he claimed, Rupert Murdoch's really old. Well, he's not that much older than Trump. He's had some physical problems. We should get a deposition quickly. And they postponed that until the motion to dismiss was filed again. And they got an opportunity to file another complaint and all of that. That's pending before Judge Gales, another judge in the Southern District of Florida, Miami. He's the judge presided over the Michael Cohen case, where Michael Cohen was sued for $500 million. Soon as depositions were scheduled and noticed, and Donald Trump couldn't wiggle out of them, the case got dropped. Something similar is going to happen here. And then the third example is definitely in the Judge Williams case. We're going to stay in the Miami federal courthouse just down the hall from Judge Altman and Judge Gales is Judge Williams. And Judge Williams is going to be holding, I assure you, an evidentiary hearing about whether Todd Blanche and Donald Trump's private lawyers committed fraud on the court. And it is fair game for her to require testimony in court from the client, Donald Trump, the plaintiff. I mean, she'll start with Todd Blanche. She'll start with this guy, Alejandro Brito, a lawyer in Coral Gables, Florida. She'll start with a lawyer for the Internal Revenue Service. Maybe she'll even call in the general counsel for the Treasury Department, who resigned in the wake of this settlement, this illegal settlement between Donald Trump and his own IRS, which created the Jan 6 fund. But she has the right and the power, the inherent authority to order Donald Trump to sit for testimony in her courtroom. This is the white knuckle moments for Donald Trump's lawyers, because if you're well prepared as a lawyer, you know how Donald Trump does in a deposition. Here's an example of it I'll give you a couple of examples. One in the E. Jean Carroll case and the other one in the fraud case. Let's play them back to back.
Read the next, go ahead. That she's not my type? Yeah, because it's not politically correct to say it, and I know that, but I'll say it anyway. She's accusing me of rape. A woman that I have no idea who she is. It came out of the blue. She's accusing me of raping her. The worst thing you can do, the worst charge. And you know it's not true too. You're a political operative also. You're a disgrace. Look, after 11 million documents and years of harassing me, they came up with nothing. And as a friend of mine said, you must be the most honest man in the world. We had, I believe, 11 million pages, but a lot. And you've gone over them, and so have others. And friends of mine have said, you are the most honest person in the world. So we've done a good job. Don't get credit for it, but that's okay.
You think 3 to 5 years later, he's going to do better at the age of 80 in these depositions based on what we've been observing in his mental and physical decline? No. This is why I repeat that one of the dumbest moves Donald Trump has ever done, among many, is to file civil lawsuits that are dead on arrival losers, right? Dead to last rights, in order to get political currency and fodder, in order to dominate a news cycle. Because now he's in my world. Now he's in the world of the courtroom. And the federal rules of civil procedure and the federal local rules for the court and the judge's chamber rules about how the judge in that courtroom handles things. And I practice in the Southern District of Florida, and I know the rules really well. I even know the judges well. And they're not going to let Donald Trump off with a hard pass on giving a deposition. So this is the good stuff. This is the jam of the video in knowing that Donald Trump has set himself up for failure and this may even happen well before the midterms. Now, Donald Trump's busy trying to wreak havoc with the election. He's trying to interfere with the upcoming election, sow discontent, sow a lack of confidence in the integrity of the election process, because he knows he's going to get shellacked at the midterms, and his party is going to do worse, if that's possible, in 2028. So when he's busy doing all of that, it's in the courtrooms where he will be fully exposed. And if you want the only way to avoid the lawsuit, and he knows it, and his lawyers know it, and that's the game that they're playing, this game of chicken, and see who's going to blink first. The only way to avoid the deposition would be to dismiss the case on the eve of the deposition. He's been known to do that. He did that in the Michael Cohen case down in Florida. So that's his MO. Lawyers on the other side know this, and they adopt strategies and tactics to account for it. That's why I said, if I were the BBC, a little bit of a free advice. I know how you've been trained. I was trained the same way, okay? I started my career at Skadden Arps. I got it, okay? I've been a trial lawyer for 35 years. And you're right that 90% of the time, 95% of the time, doing things in order, get your requests for production out, get your interrogatories out, certain questions under oath that have to be written questions under oath that have to be responded to. Do requests for admission. That's a series of factual or fact and law hybrid statements that the other side has to admit or deny. And if they deny it, it's something they should have admitted, attorney's fees start to shift. I get it. I've done all that. But there's an advantage to pushing the big fat deposition button early and blowing it up. He's not going to be prepared for that, and his law firm is outmatched. Take advantage, press your advantage. Donald Trump's law firm is a 4-person office in Miami. These firms that are up representing the BBC and the Washington Post, I know many of them. I've hired many of them in the past. We're talking several thousand lawyers that could be thrown onto this case. Flood the zone, right? Press your advantage, set the deposition early. See, that was a little bit of my own legal advice without being legal advice here on Legal AF. I'm glad you're here on Legal AF. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. And on Substack, what a community we're building there, because if you hit that subscribe button for Substack, help us to continue to grow that community. And I'll see you on a live report at about 12:30 Eastern time, only on the Substack for Legal AF. Over on Substack. So that usually goes up about 12:30 Eastern time. Till my next report, I'm Michael. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.
Mr. Ligris, were you prepared for this hearing?
I did prepare for this hearing, Senator.
You were prepared by the Department of Justice?
I did independent research online as it relates to the Office of Justice Programs and the various grant programs.
But for this hearing, were you prepped by the Department of Justice?
And then after that, I did meet with the Department of Justice and conducted moot questions.
During the course of that, Did they warn you about, for instance, Senator Kennedy's history with respect to the tweet history of nominees? Did that come up?
No.
Did not come up.
No, Senator Kennedy's question? I'm sorry.
Did they warn you that Senator Kennedy had a history of asking about nominees' tweets?
No.
They didn't. Were they aware of these tweets that have been discussed here in the hearing today?
I don't know. They did not bring it up.
So you have tweets that call Donald Trump and Kamala Harris two clowns. You have tweets that call Senator Murkowski almost as dumb as Kamala. You have tweets that call Senator Collins a fraud. You have tweets that call Senator Padilla, who sits on this committee, a thug. You have tweets that call Senator Schiff a fraud. He also sits on this committee. And you undertook no preparation to face questions about that as you come before the Senate Judiciary Committee?
No, Senator.
You didn't tell the Department of Justice about those tweets?
Senator, I tweet and respond to tweets or repost tweets regularly and frequently.
But you know the stuff is going to be looked at. It gets looked at all the time in hearings. Our expert is Senator Kennedy, but other senators ask questions about people's tweets as well. You're telling me here that you never disclosed to the Department of Justice these tweets about senators who would have to vote on your nomination, and you're telling me that DOJ, as far as you know, didn't even know about them.
I'm telling you that the DOJ never raised these with me.
And you never disclosed them to the DOJ?
No.
Well, let's start with Senators Padilla and Schiff. Do you know what state they represent?
California.
Yeah. And California will very likely be submitting applications for various grant programs to the Office of Justice Programs. Correct?
I would expect.
Yeah. And having called Senator Padilla a thug at least 5 times and Senator Schiff a fraud, what reasonably could they expect about you giving California programs a fair hearing if you're put in charge of OJP?
Every state and every jurisdiction would expect that they would go through the process of applying for grants with the Office of Justice Programs, and those grant applications would be administered and reviewed through the process of the department.
Yeah, that's what they would expect. And then there'd be a guy at the head of the program who thinks that the senators involved are a thug and a fraud. How do you convince us that you're not going to let that personal bias against these two individuals affect your judgment about California programs, particularly programs that, we often write in letters saying, we work with this program, we think they do a good job, please give it every due consideration consistent with your responsibilities. That's a pretty standard thing. How do you respond to a letter from somebody you've called a thug or somebody you've called a fraud when they support a program that you're asked to decide on?
Because I believe that the Office of Justice Programs has a mission to support the entire country, every state and every city, and protect our communities, irrespective of the elected leadership that exists there today or tomorrow.
So just trust me, I guess, is what you're saying.
Well, trust the fact that I have been in the private sector and I was a practicing lawyer for a long time, and I will administer these funds as a good steward for the taxpayers of this country and ensure that they reach the ultimate recipients and the beneficiaries, which are our communities, our law enforcement, victims of crime, our juvenile system.
So why should Judge Boasberg, the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit, be impeached?
I don't have an opinion on Judge Boasberg.
You had one when you twice said that he should be impeached on tweets.
So, Senator, I suspect that you're quoting retweets or comments to other tweets. It would be nice to have...
No, they're your tweets. You're the one who's responsible for them. You're responsible for knowing what you said. Don't put it on us to have to explain to you your own tweets. This is your mess, not ours. You're the one who tweeted impeach him. If you can't explain that, that's on you. But my general question is, why should Judge Boasberg be impeached? Whether you tweeted it or retweeted it, you obviously thought he should be impeached. Why?
It would be helpful for me to see the context of the tweet.
You're the one who's supposed to be ready for these hearings.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. Let me, as to Emile Bove, let me start with this nominee. Having told a room full of Department of Justice lawyers